Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of This Week in Magic Online Finance. My name is Chaz Andres, and as always, we're going to get started this week with the news. Now, the biggest story of this week is pretty clearly the Comander 2019 decks. They've been fully previewed as of now, and the next installment of the Comander series is going to be coming to the world of tabletop Magic a few weeks from now. Unfortunately, here on Magic Online, you're not going to have the option to buy these decks. Instead, you're going to have to open the Comander exclusive cards in treasure chests. They aren't going to be in treasure chests right away, but at some point in the next couple of weeks, or maybe the next couple of months, they'll show up and that'll be the only place they're ever going to be distributed. Now, if you've been watching this channel a while, you probably know already that casual-only cards don't tend to be worth all that much on Magic Online. Honestly, if a card isn't expensive because of Modern, it's not going to hold a ton of value here on Magic Online anyway. But there is an exception to that rule, and it is some of these Commander exclusive cards. It's true that the available demand isn't very high, but the available supply also isn't that high. When you're talking about a treasure chest exclusive, you don't need a ton of demand to cause the price to go kinda nutty. Case in point is Lord Windgrace, who, despite being just a Commander card, is about a 50 ticket rare right now, which is wild. Now, in the past, the right way to deal with these Commander exclusive cards on Magic Online has been to either buy them right away, or wait 2 to 3 months for the treasure chest drop rates to reach their saturation point. For example, most of the Comander 2018 exclusives started out around the 2 ticket mark, then they went up to the 5 or 6 ticket mark, then they kept being in treasure chests, so they bottomed out back around the 1 or 2 ticket mark again. Well, they haven't been in treasure chests for 8 or 9 months at this point, so their prices have gone kind of wild. We talked about Lord Windgrace as a 50 ticket card, and obviously that's the exception, but even some of the other Commanders are 10, 15, even 20 tickets right now, so buying really any of them for 2 tickets would have been a pretty good investment. Even if you're not a Commander player, it's worth paying attention to these cards. They can be among the most lucrative specs of the year. Let's move on now to gaining ground, where in Standard it was Chandra Awakened Inferno by a pretty wide margin this week. It gained 10 full tickets, jumping from 18 up to 28. And at this point, we can pretty clearly see that this version of Chandra is the set redemption bottleneck for Core Set 2020. Now, is it possible that this price increase has something to do with the metagame, or it's about more than just set redemption? No, probably not. To be fair, this version of Chandra does see some play in Modern in decks like Mono Red Prison, but it's generally either a one-of or a sideboard card, and honestly, in Paper Magic, this card's prices just kept dropping. No, this card is expensive because if, no cards in Core Set 2020 were expensive, you could redeem the whole set for like $10 and it would throw all the finance out of whack, and that's not going to happen. So Core Set 2020 needs a card that is going to be the bottleneck for set redemption. Right now it's Chandra, and that's going to stay true as long as, no other cards in that set are really doing a whole lot in Modern. Speaking of Modern, over in Modern, the biggest gainer of the week was Wrenn and Six, last week's biggest loser. Now, last week, Wrenn and Six lost 18 tickets, dropping from 100 all the way down to 82. This week, it gained all that back and then some. It actually gained 23 tickets, getting itself all the way up to 105. It's kind of buck wild to, be sitting here about a year after the market crash talking about a 105 ticket card on Magic Online, but, here we are with Wrenn and Six. So, where does Wrenn and Six go from here? Well, based on good things like play patterns and demand, and the fact that this card just annihilated all the other cards in terms of overall sales by price this week, more than double the second place card despite its price increase, I'd say we'd be looking at a pretty stable card in the 100 plus ticket range. Unfortunately, that would be if the Magic Online economy operated more like Paper Magic instead of how it actually operates. The issue here are treasure chests, because Wrenn and Six is really expensive right now, but it's possible, perhaps even likely, that Wrenn and Six will end up in treasure chests sooner rather than later. And depending on its drop rate, which we can't even begin to try to predict, it could drop in price fairly precipitously. If it's fairly easy to open these in treasure chests, there's gonna be enough supply for everybody. So yeah, Wrenn and Six, great card, great metrics, great sales numbers, but every expensive card on MTGO, you just run the risk of being blown up by treasure chests. So I wouldn't hold this one long term. I might even get out now just in case. Let's move on now to our biggest loser, where in Standard it was Finale of Promise, dropping about 6 tickets from 40 down to 34. So why the drop? Well, considering the fact that Modern Izzet Phoenix is still probably the second most popular deck in Modern, and that deck still runs 2 or 3 copies of this card in its main, I don't think it's metagame shifts that have caused the price to drop. No, I think it's more likely that the current Modern meta is kind of miserable. And until WotC bans Hogak, it's going to remain pretty miserable. I mean, just yesterday, I saw a stat that said that somebody registered a 75 card copy of Hogak. They misregistered the deck and their sideboard ended up in their main, so they just had all 75 cards in their main deck. They went 5-0. Hogak is too good right now. Finale of Promise will almost certainly rebound after Hogak is banned, but I'm still staying away for now. That's because it's quite possible that WotC will ban Faithless Looting at the same time they ban Hogak, because without Hogak around, Izzet Phoenix becomes the absolute most dominant deck in Modern. WotC may not want to deal with that, and they may ban Looting, and then that would be really bad for Finale of Promise. So right now I'm just going to stay away from this whole situation until we see the banned and restricted announcement. If Hogak is banned but Faithless Looting is allowed to stay, I'm definitely going to buy copies of this card. Let's move over to Modern, where this week's biggest loser was Mycosynth Lattice, dropping 5 tickets from 14 down to 9. And if you're curious why I'm still a little bit gun-shy about long-term holds on Magic Online, this is why. Mycosynth Lattice was a 50-ticket rare just a few months ago, and it's still a pretty big part of the metagame in both Vintage, Modern, and Legacy. I'm sure at some point in the coming months there's going to be a really good buying opportunity here, but the price is still dropping, so I'm holding off on this one for now. Alright, now the sneak of the week this week is Past in Flames, the Innistrad combo mythic, which has roughly quadrupled in price over the past couple of weeks, from 1 ticket up to 4. At this point, the trend line is pointing straight up at the ceiling, and I have no idea where it'll end up. The last time a card did this was Mycosynth Lattice, which ended up at 50 tickets, but I don't see that for Past in Flames. Honestly, the reason why I think this card is going up in price is because the Comander decks have a new dragon that roughly replicates Past in Flames' ability, and it's very likely that some people are looking at this card and saying, well, with these two together, maybe it opens up some lanes in competitive play, because now you've got redundancy in the effect. Honestly, I don't buy it. If you could play them both in Modern, sure, but the Commander cards aren't legal in Modern, and I think this combo is probably too slow for Legacy. At any rate, I still like Past in Flames as, a short-term gainer. It's definitely still pointing up, but long-term, I don't really buy it. Let's end the week by taking a look at the MTGO Trader's sales data over the past 7 days. And as always, this gives us a great idea about which cards are selling the best right now, regardless of price increases or decreases. Looking at overall sales by volume, I'd like to highlight Thoughtseize again this week. Now, we've talked about Thoughtseize before because it's been near the top of this list before without much of a price increase, and here it is again, but look, the price has actually finally started to creep up on this card, and demand is still consistently high. It's finally up over the 10 ticket mark, and at this point, based on the sales numbers, I don't think 15 or 16 tickets is out of the question. At any rate, if you've been putting off buying these, I'd grab them soon. In terms of overall sales by price, I just wanted to highlight yet again that Wrenn and Six did absurdly well this week, as it has been for the past month or so. More interesting this week, perhaps, is the fact that Teferi Time Raveler was a top 5 best-selling card by price this week, despite the flagging market and lack of general standard demand on MTGO and everything else. Its price has also been increasing too, so this is not a fluke. This is a card that is in demand and it's fairly expensive right now. I think it's kind of flown under a lot of people's radar because it's actually a pretty big part of the Modern metagame, but people talk about it mostly as a standard card. Well, at some point after the Hogak ban, I think it'll be more clear just what an important piece of the Modern metagame Teferi Time Raveler really is, and its long-term price tag will probably keep reflecting that. And that's all I've got for you this week. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Chaz Andres, and I will see you again next Monday morning for another episode of This Week in Magic Online Finance.